Good evening, everybody. We are live. We are live both on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. For anyone who is able to join us live, that's awesome. If you are here with us, dropping anything in our feed to tell me that you can hear us well would be greatly appreciated. Um, I'm always paranoid that I'm rambling on mute. I tend to do this very often. We are joined this evening by Dr. Ann Zechlinski, and she's a residency program coordinator. I was very excited that she could really squeeze us into her schedule because many of the questions I ask you guys for questions, and I love it that you actually send them in. A lot of you guys were interested in understanding the difference between her role and position in the structure of the program versus that of a residency program director. So I'm very excited. Thank you so much and welcome, Dr. Zechlinski. Let's start with an introduction of yourself, who you are, and your position at Foedert.
Foedert.
Foedert. Okay.
The most important thing is you guys know how to pronounce our program right. So I'm from Foedert Hospital. We're located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on the shores of Lake Michigan. I have been at Foedert for about 15 years. So some confusion with my title. So my title at work is I am a pharmacy coordinator, but my title within the residency program is that I actually am the program director for our PGY1 program. We do have a coordinator though, so I can still talk to you about the differences between a program director and a coordinator.
Awesome.
But my background, I went to school at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and then after finishing, decided I wanted to do a residency, came to Foedert, did my PGY1 here, and then did a PGY2 in health system pharmacy administration and leadership.
Gotcha.
Since then, have been working in a variety of administrative related roles, started as a clinical manager, and currently I'm in a coordinator role. One of the things that was important to me recently is I have 3 little kids at home, so I work part-time in this role, but one of my main responsibilities, in addition to some other things, is the residency program in our inpatient setting. I also help to kind of coordinate all of our residency programs across Foedert and the medical college. We have, don't quote me on the number of programs, I want to say we have 40 residents across 10-ish programs. So there are quite a few, different program directors and leaders involved in training residents at our organization.
Yeah. We're echoing. I'm sorry. I'm not sure where I'm echoing.
You're not echoing on my end. I can't hear your echo.
Oh, okay, great. I'll ignore it. So that's a really good point because it sounds like it's a really large program across the system. So one of the questions that I did receive was for the residency programs across the system, does a resident have an opportunity to do a rotation at another site if something that they're interested in isn't available at your hospital?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So for our programs specific, and I think this will vary a little bit. So for PGY1 level programs, there tends to not be as many of those opportunities. And the reason for that is because we do actually get some funding from CMS to train residents. And so because of that, we need our residents to work at our site.
Gotcha.
But that being said, we do offer like a academia rotation with the medical college. But we do have quite a breadth of rotations. So there's typically we try to, tell candidates what we don't have so that they can make a decision before they come to our site. So the example that I usually give, like we don't have a pediatrics rotation at Foedert. So if we have residents interested in pediatrics as like their specialty, that might be not the best fit for our specific program.
Absolutely.
But at the PGY2 level, a lot of the programs do have, like for example, like our emergency medicine program, there's a rotation over at the community hospital within our system to kind of see some of the differences between practicing at an academic site at the main hospital versus more of a community site.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that well-detailed description. One of the other questions that came in was a difference between residency program director and a coordinator. And I think the gist of this question was understanding the difference between the coordinator and the director, but also as a resident, what would the coordinator be my first line for versus the director? Or is the culture in your program more of come to who you're comfortable with first, or come to whomever is accessible first?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that to it for certain. So ASHP recognizes the program director, and you can have one program director per program. But we have a large number of residents at Foedert. So, within my program, I have 10 PGY1s plus some additional like 2-year programs that do our PGY1 as their first year. So I think it totals about 17 residents. So we have a coordinator, and we kind of split up the responsibilities between the two of us. So Amanda, my coordinator, she staffs in the oncology area. So she does some of the more clinically focused tasks. She helps with evaluations for like the staffing rotation. So we kind of have discussed that and have given the residents some direction as to like what to come to Amanda for and what to come to me for. But then at the same time, I think there is a little bit of like, who's here today, who's here right now and having a problem. And then also like, who do I feel most comfortable with? Like maybe if I have a resident who's on rotation with me, like they'll come to me because they're here. But if they're on rotation with Amanda, they might run things by her. So each program is going to be a little bit different with regards to how they use those coordinators roles. And some programs have multiple, like they might have, I've heard of programs that have like potted residents where there's, 4 residents per coordinator to kind of divide up to make sure that they have a connect with someone.
Yeah. Okay. I'm unaware of that model of kind of breaking them up into pods like that. Thank you for sharing that. One of the other questions, what made you interested in pharmacy education on this level?
Yeah, I mean, I think it a lot of it was just the experiences that I've had. So being a resident at Foedert and recognizing that within that year period, you can get so much experience and feel so confident in your abilities that's continued to stay with me. And I really enjoyed helping the next generations of pharmacy students feel that way too. So I think training at an academic medical center like ours can feel overwhelming, but having a great support system and the people make that definitely manageable. Oh no, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. See, I'm paranoid for a reason. I'm super paranoid.
We've been doing technology for so long, and how many times do I have my on mute when I'm trying to talk? It happens to all of us. Oh my gosh.
Super paranoid that I'm like rambling on mute and nobody can hear me. Thank you so much for letting me know that. But I was saying that it speaks volumes that you did your residency program at Foedert and you stayed there, and now you've kind of ascended to the role of residency program director. I always encourage students to pay attention to that when they go on residency program interviews. People don't stay in places they absolutely hate. They look for an exit strategy very, very quickly. So it's very important to kind of pay attention to some of those things that you're not going to find in the program's brochure. But by talking and engaging with the people you're interviewing with and asking them questions about why they've stayed here so long, it could really be telling in helping you kind of figure out this may just be a fit for me. I think that's so awesome that you're still there and like helping student pharmacists in this way still. One of the other questions, this one actually said she's a P1 and she's interested in advice from a residency program or someone in the residency program leadership position as to what she should do as a P1 student or things she should look out for, because she's definitely sure that she wants to do a residency and interested in advice and guidance on how she should kind of set herself up her pharmacy career so she is successful when the time comes.
Yeah, I think that it's awesome to think about that during P1 year. I mean, number one, do well in school. So focusing in on the didactics and the experiential experiences that you're going to get during pharmacy school. I think it's really important to get some work experience. And I don't know that the setting for the work experience matters so much. I like to see candidates that can balance working and school. It's like good time management. And I think you learn so much from, handling the medications, learning the names of the medications, brand versus generic. Like some of that stuff comes easier in school if you're also working. And then finding a few things in school that you're passionate about. So joining certain clubs to help you network with other students and faculty members. I don't think that you need to be involved in a million different things, but like picking the one or two things that really you can be passionate about, you can contribute to, and not just be a member. So whether that be taking on some leadership roles within those organizations, volunteering at they have all those cool health screenings that you can do. So just kind of like figuring out what you like about pharmacy and finding your niche is important. So I think a well-rounded candidate is what we would be looking for. If you are interested in research, I think that's another thing that you can look at. I think as a P1 student, I was, when I thought of research, I was like, oh yeah, sitting in a lab, but like getting like more of a clinical research.
Yeah. Oh, my internet is not. Oh my goodness, my internet was like freezing and I was like, please don't go away. Okay, you're back. I think that that's really important, which is so interesting. The next person's question literally lines up right with what you were just talking about being well-rounded. And it's super targeted because the question reads, what is Foedert Hospital's definition of a well-rounded candidate?
Yeah, I mean, I think I gave you most of the buckets that we're looking at when we look at an application. As far as like leadership experience, service experience, like volunteerism. Obviously, we want you to do well in school, but you don't need to have a 4.0. Like we want to see that you did well. What am I missing? Having some people that can write you letters of recommendation is important. Those obviously a big part of your application. And then I guess like talking about fourth year rotations, those are probably your most important rotations. There's some programs where you can do like a longitudinal program where you can do a variety of your rotations in like a health center. I think that those is a good way to go. But just thinking about like if you want to apply for residency during the first part of your fourth year, you're going to want someone that's able to write about your clinical skills in a letter of recommendation. So I think planning your rotations accordingly.
Yeah, that's so important. And I try to encourage students about that. Like, just don't be afraid. Just seek those clinical track opportunities out. It's an opportunity for them to be somewhere for more than just 5 or 6 weeks, where someone, a preceptor, can really get an opportunity to get to know you and be able to write about you in a more like accurate something in a way that accurately represents your aptitude, your potential, but also your real skill set and how you could be a good candidate for residency program. I want to get all these mid-year questions in because there are a few that came in about that. They were interested in knowing whether or not just your for the residency showcase, would we expect to only interact with Foedert, or will it be your entire system at one booth?
Oh, yeah. So it's everyone at one booth for us. I don't know if it's that way for everyone, but it is a lot of people. So I think we have one of those big booths.
Yeah.
So you certainly can talk to more than one person. I think that's a good thing to do when you go to different programs, especially bigger programs. Like talk with the program director, talk with a resident, if there's preceptors there, you can kind of mix and match among the people that are present. But yeah, we will have one big booth. And it usually gets a little crowded.
Yeah. Okay. And I think you've answered this next question. Will we expect to have just the residents and directors, or will some of the residents and preceptors be present? I don't know if you know that this early or.
So we will have mostly program directors and coordinators, but there might be a preceptor too. We try to get representation from like all of our different programs at mid-year, and then we'll have the majority of our residents there. So like you can even talk with more than one resident to get different perspectives.
Awesome. And then this one is about the match and ranking process. The question is, this is similar to the showcase. Does Foedert have one program code, or do I get to have, or the system, each of the facilities have their own different codes where I have to apply to each individually and rank them individually as a program?
Yeah, so I guess I didn't talk about what programs we have available. So as I mentioned earlier, like my program is the PGY1 acute care focused residency. So it's basically a pharmacy residency where the majority of your time is spent in the acute care setting. But we do have an ambulatory care residency program that takes 4 residents, and that one is mostly based in the AM care setting and has a different program director. And then we have a variety of like 2-year track programs. So we have an informatics program that you commit to for 24 months.
Wow.
We have the medication use safety and policy program, which is similar where you commit to 24 months. And then we have the HSPAL, so like the admin program that you commit for 24 months. So those are all separate programs and separate match codes. We do have within my program for acute care, I have a non-traditional position, which is where you complete the residency over 2 years. So you spend your time on rotation, you spend about half of your time staffing on the inpatient side and in central pharmacy, and you complete those residency program requirements over 24 months. There's a variety of benefits to doing that program. One of which is if you feel like the financial challenge of doing a residency is something that you're worried about, you do get paid kind of in between a pharmacist and a resident salary for those 2 years if you do the non-trade program. So that is included as part of my program, but you can rank both. So you can rank the 12-month program and you can rank the 24-month program.
This is very interesting.
There's a lot of these programs across the country at different places. So if this is like, whoa, that's something that I'd be interested in.
Yeah.
They are available, but like ours is accredited under our PGY1, so it's a little bit more difficult. Like we don't have a separate page in the ASHP directory for the non-trad program. I have like a blurb in there about the non-trad program.
Gotcha.
So they're a little bit harder to tease out and find, I feel like.
Yeah. That's really interesting and really unique. So, because I tell some students that too, a lot of them are like, oh, I can't afford to invest another year. I have to go right to work. So, when I first learned about the non-traditional, I was already a resident. I had no idea that that was something that existed and could be an option for someone where financially, for some other people, they're caregivers to their parents, and the commitment of being a resident full time, even for just 12 more months, or they're even parents. Like there's so many reasons that, and I think it's really cool that these non-traditional programs exist. And I feel like we need to promote it more, because so many pharmacy students decide that residency isn't for them because of these other reasons and their inabilities to just commit an extra year and invest in their growth and development. So I think it's great that you guys are offering that. Your application process is definitely through forecast, right?
Yeah, so we're through forecast. We have a requirement of, your CV, 3 letters of recommendation. We actually, instead of a letter of intent this year, we're looking for some supplemental questions that you complete. So you can find those in the ASHP directory. So we just want you to copy paste those into a Word document and then provide, some paragraphs, responses to those things. They're very similar to like what you would find in a letter of intent.
Yeah.
What am I missing? And then your transcripts from your school. So that's the one piece of advice. I think forecast opens soon. Yes. So request those transcripts. It's more important that we have a transcript than if we have like all of your 4th year rotations. I think some people wait because they want those grades to come in. Yeah. But we forget that over the holidays, the registrars close, and then a lot of programs get a lot of candidates. And so if you have 96% of the applications are in with a transcript, those people that are missing transcripts are really behind the 8 ball. So
absolutely. That's excellent advice. Really, like really, really, really listen. This is a person in the position that will be reviewing those applications. So I just I don't want to be an alarmist, but this is really good advice in getting all your paperwork in early because I think, which always surprises me. It's like, well, I didn't think they would be closed. Applications are due like dead in the middle of the holiday season.
I mean, it's not the most convenient time. Don't get me wrong. It's not the most convenient time.
It's really, really not. Oh man. Okay, so thank you. And then I think that I addressed the mid-year question and how they can apply through forecast. Um, any advice? I think anxiety is so high at this time of the year. But I think as a program director, you are in a position where you see all of these phenomenal candidates and you have this many positions. What advice would you offer anyone who's going to be entering the trenches in what I call the pharmacy Hunger Games really, really soon? Really soon. And they find out that phase one wasn't a success for them. What success, I mean, what success, what advice would you have for that candidate that really is a strong candidate about, like, from your perspective, what are some things that you have to share with that person for how they should proceed next?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, don't give up. So phase, I would say phase, I'm going to put it out there. Phase two is probably harder than phase one.
Absolutely.
So we did have a couple of years ago, we did not match one of our spots, and the number of candidates that I received, I was shocked.
Wow.
So I think definitely if you are set on doing that residency, get in there as quickly as you can, look at the programs, reach out directly to the program directors. I know it was impossible for me to get through every single application, but I did know the people who had contacted me. So I think that helped me to narrow down from an interest level standpoint. But then I think, if phase two doesn't happen, if you don't match during that phase two, I think coming up with your game plan, that doesn't mean you can't do a residency. Absolutely. It just means that you're not going to maybe do a residency this year, but then looking at your application, visiting with your mentors, figuring out where you need to improve and what you can do in that year that you have to find a job, continue your activity.
Yeah. My internet. My internet is spotty.
Not spreading their net wide enough or only applying to very large, well-renowned programs. So making sure that when you're looking at your program list now, do you have a good variety of, smaller programs, bigger programs that are going to get a lot of applications, programs that maybe aren't going to get as many, programs that people at. I think it's a little easier when you know people versus not. And then I think on the first go around, don't be afraid to reach out to the program directors. There's a reason, we put our contact information out there because we want to hear from you. Yeah. And I think if you have two candidates that are equal, by our application scoring, but we're oh, but this person has reached out to me. I've talked to them. We've emailed, and we have to decide between who gets an interview. That person that we've talked to is going to win out of that, that decision. So don't be afraid. The worst going to happen is you won't get an email back, but I guarantee, I really try hard to answer those emails because I want people to be interested in our program.
Absolutely. And that's such great advice. At this time of the year, they're just so anxious, and I'm kind of you have to start by just reaching out. And you're going to be so blown away by how much all of these directors they're excited, they're interested, they're looking for you, you're looking for them. Just don't be afraid to reach out to them and express your excitement and how you're looking forward to how all of this is going to unfold. You just don't know. But if you just think that the CV, the letters, and all of this is super stellar, I'm just going to go at it. Some people are successful at it. I just think that it's not worth all of that risk and anxiety. Reach out to people. So that's such good advice. I'm so grateful that you could join us. This has been amazing. It's like a director's evening. We have another director coming on. So I know like they're going to be super happy to hear directly from you guys in your position. I think your perspective is super unique in that like this is legit what you're focusing on. It's like who's a fit for us, who may not be such a good fit for us. So your input and helping guide some of these prospective candidates is definitely invaluable. Thank you so much, Dr. Zechlinski.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you allowing to talk with your network.
Yes, absolutely.
Have
Thank
a great
you.
evening.
You too. Thank you, everybody. See you at 7 o'clock. Bye.
Bye.